If you've never spent a week behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound machine, you don't know what real loneliness is. It's not just the empty miles. It's the truck stops at 3 a.m. that feel like forgotten outposts on another planet. It's the shadows that the high beams can't quite reach. You see things out there in the big empty, things that don't make sense, things that the daylight burns away but you can't ever forget. Most drivers have a story. These are mine, and the first one started on the loneliest road in America. I was on a cross-country haul, pushing my Kenworth through Nevada on US 50. If you know that road, you know it's just nothing. Miles and miles of desert basin and range, with a sky so big it feels like it's going to swallow you. I was running low on hours and needed to park for my 10-hour break. My GPS showed a single tiny dot ahead. Dust Devil Truck Stop. Sounded charming. When I pulled in, the place was a wreck. Half the fuel pumps were rusted out, and the diner looked like it had been closed since the Carter administration. There were maybe 3 other trucks in the massive, cracked lot, all dark, their drivers asleep. I found a spot at the far end, backed in and killed my engine. The silence was deafening. I was getting ready to crawl into my sleeper cab when I saw movement by the front of the station. A woman was walking towards my truck. This wasn't unusual. Lot lizards, prostitutes who work the truck stops, are a common sight. But this was different. She wasn't dressed for the job. She was wearing a simple, clean, white summer dress, completely out of place for the chilly desert night. She walked right up to my driver's side door, stopping just below my window. She was young, maybe early 20s, with long, dark hair, but her smile, it was too wide, too perfect. "Evening, driver," she said, her voice smooth and sweet, not a hint of road weariness in it. "Looks like a lonely night." I just nodded, not wanting to engage. "Just parking for the night," I said, my hand already on the curtain to my sleeper. "I know," she said, and that perfect smile never wavered. "I was watching you coming for miles. I was hoping you'd stop. It gets so boring out here." Her eyes were locked on mine. They were a pale, piercing blue, and they didn't seem to blink. A cold feeling started to creep up my spine. "Sorry, I'm not interested," I said, trying to be polite but firm. "Oh, I'm not selling anything," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I just want to talk. Maybe see the inside of your truck? I've always wondered what they're like." That was it. Alarm bells were screaming in my head. No one, especially not a woman alone in the middle of the night, asks to get into a stranger's truck. "That's not going to happen," I said, my voice hard now. I hit the lock button on my door, the thunk echoing in the cab. Her smile faltered for just a second, replaced by a flicker of something cold and predatory. Then it snapped back into place. "Don't be like that, Mark." My blood turned to ice. My name is Mark. It's not on my truck. It's not on my license plate. There is absolutely no way she could have known my name. "How do you know my name?" I demanded. She just chuckled, a light, airy sound that didn't match the darkness in her eyes. "Oh, we know all the drivers who come through here. We know who's kind, and we know who needs to be taught a lesson." She put a hand on my door, her long, pale fingers splayed against the metal. "Now you're going to let me in. We have so much to talk about. Your wife, Sarah, the little girl back home who misses her daddy." I was completely frozen. She knew about my family. My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs. I reached for the CB mic, my hand shaking, ready to scream for help, but then I heard a sound from the other side of my truck. "I hear some scrapes." It was the sound of metal dragging on asphalt. Slowly, I turned my head to look at my passenger side mirror. Two more figures were emerging from the shadows behind the abandoned diner. They were tall and gaunt, dressed in dark, ragged clothes, and they were dragging long, rusted tire irons. I looked back at the woman. Her smile was gone. In its place was a lipless, hungry grin that stretched her face into an inhuman shape. "You should have been kind, Mark," she hissed, her voice now a dry, rasping sound. I didn't think. I fired up the engine, the huge diesel roaring to life and shattering the silence. The woman leapt back from my door with a snarl. I slammed the truck into gear and stomped on the accelerator. The two figures with the tire irons started running towards me, their movements jerky and wrong. My truck lurched forward, and I swerved, my tires screaming as I tore out of that lot and back onto the empty highway. I didn't look back. I drove for 100 miles, fueled by pure adrenaline, until I saw the bright, welcoming lights of a big chain truck stop. I never slept that night. The next morning, when I was doing my pre-trip inspection, I found it. Scratched into the paint on my passenger door, right below the handle, was a crude drawing, a spiral with a single, unblinking eye in the center. I sold that truck a year later. I still drive, but I never take US 50, and I never, ever stop at the little, forgotten places in the dark.
Every trucker has a ghost story. Most are just that, stories. A phantom hitchhiker, a ghost rig seen in the rearview mirror. But the story I'm about to tell you, I can't explain it. And the old Navajo man who I told it to, he didn't even try. He just nodded, like he'd heard it 100 times before. It happened on a dead straight stretch of I-40, cutting through the Arizona desert, deep in the heart of the Navajo Nation. The dark out there is different. It's an ancient, living thing. The land is full of power and history, and you feel it, especially when you're the only soul for 50 miles. My call sign on the CB is Road Dog. That night, I was just trying to stay awake, listening to the chatter from the other drivers. Around 1 a.m., the radio went quiet. Not just quiet, but dead. The usual hiss and static were gone. It was a smothering, unnatural silence. I checked my rig. All systems were go. I was about to dismiss it as a dead zone when a new sound crackled through the speaker. A child's voice. A little girl crying. "Mommy, I'm lost. Can anybody hear me?" My heart clenched. This was impossible. A kid wouldn't be on a CB, especially not on this channel. It had to be a prank, some sick joke. "This is not a channel for games," I said into the mic. "You need to get off." The crying intensified, becoming a desperate sob. "Please, my name is Lily. Our car broke down. It's so dark. My mommy won't wake up." And then the part that made the hair on my arm stand up. "Road Dog, are you out there? Your lights are so bright. Please stop." She knew my call sign. My rig is my castle, my safe space, but in that moment it felt like a tiny, vulnerable cage. My mind was racing. Was this a trap? Bandits trying to get me to stop? "Where are you, Lily?" I asked, my voice tight. "What's your 20? "I don't know," she cried. "I just see the road and your truck. Please don't leave me out here." I slowed down, my eyes scanning the darkness on either side of the highway. There was nothing. No broken down car, no flashing lights, just the endless empty desert. And then the voice changed. The crying stopped abruptly. A low, guttural chuckle crackled through the radio, a sound full of gravel and malice. "Almost had you," it rasped, the voice now a horrifying parody of the little girl's voice. "So close."
I stomped on the accelerator, my heart trying to claw its way out of my throat. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I had to get away from whatever was playing this game. I was doing about 70 when I saw it, pacing me, just off the shoulder of the road, running on the sand. It was a coyote, but it was running on its two hind legs, its body elongated and wrong, and it was keeping up with my truck. I stared, my mind refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. As it ran, its form seemed to shimmer and shift in my headlights. For a split second, it looked like a deer, then a man, then back to a coyote. Its eyes glowed with a faint, reddish light. It turned its head to look at me, and its jaw unhinged, opening far too wide. And from that impossibly wide mouth came the sound of the little girl's voice, amplified and distorted. "Let me in!" It shrieked. It veered towards my truck, and I heard a loud bang on my passenger door, then another. It was trying to get in at 70 miles an hour. I swerved, the whole rig groaning in protest. I laid on the air horn, the deafening blast echoing across the desert. The creature, or whatever it was, fell back, its form dissolving into the darkness as if it were made of smoke. I drove until the sun came up, not daring to stop. I pulled into the first gas station I saw, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my coffee. An old Navajo man was working the counter. He took one look at my pale, terrified face and just nodded slowly. "You heard the radio an hour back, didn't you?" he asked, his voice calm. I just stared at him, speechless. "You did the right thing," he continued, wiping down the counter. "It's hungry, that thing. It uses the voices of the lost to make a trap. It takes their skin, but it can't quite get the voice right. My grandfather told me the stories. You don't stop for anything on that road at night. Nothing." He looked out the window at the bright morning desert. "The sun will keep you safe now, but it will be waiting for you when the sun goes down again." I took a different route on my way back. I took a 300-mile detour. I'll never drive that stretch of I-40 at night again, because I know what's out there, and I know it remembers my call sign. This last story isn't about a monster or a ghost, not in the traditional sense. It's about a load I picked up, a job that paid triple the going rate from a company I'd never heard of, with a destination that didn't feel real. It was a lesson in the fact that the most terrifying thing you can haul is a secret. The offer came through a broker app. An independent company called Eschaton Logistics needed a reefer, a refrigerated trailer, taken from a remote facility in the industrial back alleys of Portland, Oregon, to a private research outpost in the Nevada desert. The pay was astronomical. Against my better judgment, my bank account made the decision for me. The pickup location was wrong from the start. It was a featureless gray concrete building with no signs, no logos. Just a single, rolling steel door. A man in a plain black uniform, no insignia, met me. He didn't say a word, just handed me the bill of lading. It was strange. Under cargo, it just said, Biospecimen 734, perishable. Maintain -40 degrees Fahrenheit, do not open. They loaded the trailer in complete silence, then sealed it with a heavy, numbered metal lock. "This seal is not to be broken for any reason," the silent man said, his first and only words. "You have one destination, no unscheduled stops. Deliver by sunrise day after tomorrow." I got on the road, the powerful hum of the reefer unit a constant companion. Reefer units are loud, but this one was different. It had a deep, almost organic thrum to it, and it was working overtime. I checked my gauges. The trailer was holding at a steady 40 below. That's incredibly cold, colder than almost any standard perishable load. The first night was uneventful, just miles of empty highway. But when I stopped for my mandatory break, the strangeness began. I parked at a large, well-lit pilot station, but I couldn't sleep. A strange, low, rhythmic sound was coming from the trailer. A soft thump, thump, thump. It sounded almost like a heartbeat, a very, very slow heartbeat. I told myself it was the machinery, the compressor cycling, but I'd been hauling reefer loads for 10 years. I'd never heard anything like it. As I drove through the second day, I started to notice a smell, a faint, coppery Swedish odor seeping into my cab. It smelled like old blood and formaldehyde. My air freshener couldn't touch it. I tried to ignore it, rolling down my windows, but the smell was inside my head. The thumping got more insistent that night. I parked at another truck stop, but this time I couldn't stay in the cab. I got out and walked back to the trailer. The big white box was vibrating, just slightly, in time with the thumps. The air around it was unnaturally cold, frost forming on the locking mechanism, even in the mild night air. I put my hand on the trailer door. The metal was so cold it burned, and through the thick, insulated wall, I could feel the vibration. Thump, thump, thump. It was coming from inside. Then, I saw it. On the dusty back door of the trailer, a handprint was slowly appearing. It was forming from the inside, the condensation of a warm hand being pressed against the freezing metal. It wasn't a human hand. The fingers were too long, too thin, and there were too many of them. 6. I stumbled back, my mind screaming. Whatever was in that trailer was alive, and it was awake. I should have unhitched the trailer right there, called the cops, and run. But the sheer, insane amount of money I was being paid had a gravity of its own. I got back in my truck and drove, my eyes glued to my mirrors. I made it to the delivery coordinates at dawn. It was just a spot in the empty desert, marked by a single, unmarked gate. The gate swung open as I approached. The two men who met me were in the same black uniforms. They didn't speak. One handed me a tablet to sign. The other attached a device to the trailer seal, which popped open with a hiss. They checked the temperature logs, nodded, and then gestured for me to leave. As I was pulling away, I looked back. They were opening the large rear doors of the trailer. I couldn't see what was inside, but just for a second, I saw a thick, black, tar-like substance dripping from the floor of the trailer onto the desert sand. And I heard a sound, a low, wet, guttural sigh of something being released into the world. The money was in my account an hour later. Eschaton Logistics vanished from the broker app. The company didn't exist. My logbook for the trip was wiped from my electronic system. It's like the last 48 hours had never happened. But I can't forget the cold, the smell, and the six-fingered handprint. I don't know what I delivered to that empty patch of desert, or what the people who paid me planned to do with it. But I know that I was a delivery boy for a monster. And sometimes, late at night, when the air is cold and still, I swear I can hear a faint, slow heartbeat on the wind.
Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them over at the comments section,
and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. Thanks so much, friends, and I'll see you again soon. Good night.